All my dear class 6 student, now you have a new video. In this video, now you are going to learn English honeysuckle lesson number 5. The name of the lesson, A Different Kind of School. It is a story which revolves around a unique school of Miss Beam, where the main aim is to teach children how to sympathize with others and be helpful. Now let's start reading the story, A Different Kind of School. I had heard a great deal about Miss Beam's school, but not till last week did the chance come to visit it. The writer of the story has heard a lot about Miss Beam's school, but he did not get chance till last week to visit to that particular school. So he decided to give it a visit when he get the chance. When I arrived there was no one in sight but a girl of about 12. When the writer, upon reaching at Miss Beam's school, he noticed that he saw a girl of about 12 years of age. Her eyes were covered with a bandage. Then the eyes of the girl were covered with a bandage, and she was being led carefully between the flower beds by a little boy who was about 4 years younger than the girl whose eyes were covered with the bandage was being led carefully between the flower beds by a little boy who is about 4 years younger than the girl. She stopped, and it looked like she asked him who had come. Then the girl stopped, and she looked like she asked the little boy who had come. He seemed to be describing me to her. Then the writer thought that the little boy described about the writer to the girl whose eyes were covered with the bandage. Then they passed on. Then after that, the girl and the boy went on. Miss Beam was all that I had expected. Middle-aged, full of authority, yet kindly and understanding. Then, after they went on, the writer met Miss Beam. Then Miss Beam was a middle-aged, full of authority, and a kind lady or a kind teacher. Her hair was beginning to turn gray. Her hair was beginning to turn gray means she became older, and she had the kind of plump figure that is likely to be comforting to a homesick child. Then Miss Bim was a fat woman. Then her body looks round in shape. I asked her some questions about her teaching methods, which I had heard were simple. Then the writer asked Miss Bim some questions about her teaching method, which he had heard were simple. The writer had heard that the teaching method of Miss Bim were simple. No more than is needed to help them to learn how to do things. Simple spelling, adding, subtracting, multiplying, and writing. Then Miss Bim further told to the writer that there is no more than is needed, say, to help the student to learn how to do things like simple spelling, adding, then subtracting, multiplying, and writing. The rest is done by reading. Then the rest of the lesson is done by reading to them and by interesting talks. Then by talking, during which they have to sit still. Then during the talking and reading to them, reading the lessons to them, students have to sit still and keep their hands quiet. Then they have to stay their hands quiet. So they have not to move. They have not to move their hands. There are practically no other lessons. So in Miss Bim's unit school, only this teaching method were applied. The real aim of this school is not so much to teach thought as to teach thoughtfulness, kindness to others, and being responsible citizens. Then Miss Bim told to the writer that her main aim of teaching in her school is to help children become more kind and thoughtful. Look out of the window a minute, will you? Then Miss Bim asked the writer to look out of the window. I went to the window which overlooked a large garden. Then when the writer looked out of the window, he saw a large garden and a playground at the back. Then a big playground at the back of the garden. What do you see? Miss Bim asked. Then Miss Bim asked to the writer, what did he see? I see some very beautiful grounds, I said, and a lot of jolly children. Then the writer told to Miss Bim that he saw a very beautiful ground and a lot of jolly children there in the beautiful ground. It pains me, though, to see that they are not all so healthy and active looking. Then the writer told to Miss Bim that his heart felt pains. Why? Because all the children who were in the very beautiful ground were not a healthy one, and they were not active looking children. When I came in, I saw one poor little girl being led about. She has some trouble with her eyes. Then the writer told to Miss Bim that when he first came inside her unique school, he already saw a little girl whose eyes were covered with bandages. Then the writer further said to Miss Bim that the girl whose eyes were covered with bandages might have some problem with her eyes. Now I can see two more with the same difficulty. So now the writer can see two more children with the same difficulty like the girl whose eyes were covered with the bandage. And there is a girl with a crush watching the others at play. She seems to be a hopeless cripple. Then the writer told to Miss Bim that there was also a girl with a crush. Crush, what to say in Manipuri? Makong tekpa mina satpada sisinaba sekata yepaga ngaklo oina sisinaba ko adugi posak to buni crush saibadi say. And there is a girl with a crush watching the others at play, and there is also a girl with a crush watching the other children playing there. She seems to be a hopeless cripple. Then the writer thought that that particular girl was to be a hopeless cripple. Miss Bim laughed. Oh no, she said, she is not really lame. This is only her lame day. Say, on hearing the writer's word, say, Miss Bim laughed. And she said, oh no, she is not really lame. That means the girl was not a lame person. This is only her lame day. The others are not blind either. It is only their blind day. Then the others girl who seems to be a blind are not blind children. I must have looked very surprised, for she laughed again. Then the writer felt surprised on hearing Miss Bim's words. This is a very important part of our system to make our children appreciate and understand misfortune. We make them share in misfortune too. Say, in order to help our children appreciate it and understand the less fortunate, say the school makes them share in their misfortune. Each term, every child has one blind day, one lame day, one deaf day, one injured day, and one dumb day. Say, every child has one blind day, one lame day, one deaf day, one injured day, and one dumb day. During the blind day, their eyes are bandaged. Absolutely. That means their eyes are bandaged very tightly, and they are on their honor not to peep, and they are not allowed to beef. The bandage is put on overnight so they wake blind. So the bandage is put on their eye before they sleep. So they wake blind in the morning. This means that they need help with everything. So when their eyes were covered with the bandage, they need the help of others. Other children are given the duty of helping them and leading them about. Then the other children will help the children whose eyes were covered with bandages. They all learn so much this way, both the blind and the helpers. So by helping each other, they learn so much lesson in that way. There is no misery about it. Miss Beam continued. Everyone is very kind and it is really something of a game. Then Miss Beam further told to the writer that every children are very kind and they help each other and they act as a blind person, as a lame person, just like a game. Before the day is over, though, even the most thoughtless child realizes what misfortune is. Say before the day is over, say all the thoughtless child even realize what misfortune is. The blind day is of course really the worst, but some of the children tell me that the dumb day is the most difficult. Then Miss Beam told to the writer that the blind day is of course the worst to act. But some of the children told her that the dumb day is the most difficult one. We cannot bandage the children's mouth, so they really have to exercise their willpower. They said that the dumb day is the most difficult. Why? Because we cannot bandage children's mouth, so they really have to exercise with their willpower. Come into the garden and see for yourself how the children feel about it. Then Miss Beam told to the writer to come into the garden and to see how the children feel about it. Miss Beam led me to one of the bandaged girls. Here is a gentleman come to talk to you, said Miss Beam and left us. Then Miss Beam led the writer to one of the bandaged girls, and she told to the bandaged girl that there was a gentleman come to talk to her. And after that, Miss Beam left the writer and the bandaged girl there. Don't you ever beef? I asked the girl. Then the writer asked the bandaged girl whether she did not beef. Oh no, she exclaimed. Then the bandaged girl replied no to the writer. That would be cheating. If she beef, that would be sitting. But I had no idea it was so awful to be blind. Then further, the Venice girl said to the writer that she had no idea about the blind, but she found that it was so awful to be blind. You can't see a thing. You feel you are going to be hit by something every moment. It is such a relief just to sit down. Then, further, the Vende's girl told to the writer that for the blind person, he or she can't see a thing, then every time he or she feels that he or she was going to be hit by something every moment. So, for the blind, it was a relief to sit down somewhere. Are your helpers kind to you? I asked. Then the writer asked to the Vende's girl whether her helper were kind to her. Purely, but they are not as careful as I shall be when it is my turn. Then the bandaged girl replied to the writer that her helper was very kind to her, but they are not as careful as she shall be when it is her turn. Those that have been blind already are the best helpers. It is perfectly ghastly not to see. I wish you would try. Shall I lead you anywhere? I asked. Then the writer asked the bandaged girl whether he can lead her anywhere. Oh, yes, he said. Let us go for a little walk. Only you must tell me about things. Then the bandaged girl replied to the writer by saying yes. Then she told to the writer to go for a little walk. Only you must tell me about things. Then further, the vendor's girl told to the writer to tell her about things only. I shall be so glad when today is over. Then she said that she will be so glad when her blind day is over. The other bad days can't be half as bad as this. Then the bandaged girl said that her blind day is the worst day for her. Having a leg tied up and hopping about on a grass is almost fun, I guess. Say, to act as a lame person is almost fun for her. Having an arm tied up is a bit more troublesome because you can't eat without help and things like that. Then, to act like an injured person is more difficult than to act like a lame person. I don't think I will mind being deaf for a day, at least not much. Say, to act like a deaf person, she would not mind anything for that. But Being blind is so frightening, but to act as a blind person is so frightening for her. My head aches all the time just from worrying that I will get hurt. Then, all the time, she feel headache that she will get hurt. Where are we now? Then the Vende's girl asked the writer where they are now. In the playground, I said. The writer said they are in the playground. We are walking toward the house. Then they are walking toward the house. Miss Beam is walking up and down the garden with a tall girl. Then the writer told the Vende's girl that Miss Beam was walking up and down the garden with a tall girl. What is the girl wearing? My little friend asked. Then the Vende's girl asked the writer, what is the girl who is going with Miss Beam wearing? A blue cotton skirt and a pink blouse. Then the writer replied to the Vende's girl that the girl who is going with Miss Beam wear a blue cotton shirt and a pink blouse. I think it is Millie, she said. What color is her hair? Then the Vende's girl told to the writer that the girl's is Millie. Then she further asked the writer what color is her hair. Very light, I said. The writer said very light. Yes, that is Millie. She is the head girl. Then the bandage girl said that it is exactly Millie. She is the head girl. There is an old man tying up roses, I said. Then the writer again told to the bandage girl that there was an old man tying up roses. Yes, that is Peter. Then the bandage girl replied that that old man was Peter. He is the gardener. Say, he was the gardener. He is hundreds of years old. Then, and here comes a girl with curly red hair. She is on crutches. That is Anita, she said. Then the writer told to the vendor's girl that there comes a girl with curly red hair. She was on crutches. Then the vendor's girl told to the writer that was Anita. And so we walked on. Gradually, I discovered that I was 10 times more thoughtful than I ever thought I could be. Then, say, after walking with this bandage girl, now the writer was 10 times more thoughtful than ever. I also realized that if I had to describe people and things to someone else, it made them more interesting to me. So, moreover, the writer also realized that describing things to people brings him great pleasure. When I finally had to leave, I told Miss Beam that I was very sorry to go. So when he finally had to leave, he told Miss Beam that he was very sorry to go. Ah, she replied. Miss Beam replied, ah. Then there is something in my system after all. A different kind of school story teaches us how, apart from education, we must also learn how to be respectful of others. Moreover, we must always help out the especially able people and be compassionate towards them. Finally, we must be grateful for what we have and make the most of it. The story is written by E.B. Lucas. Then all the question answer for this story will be provided by your teacher who take Google Meet class. Then in this lesson number 6, now we have a poem. The name of the poem, Where Do All the Teachers Go? For a little child, a teacher is special. It is difficult for a small child to think of his or her teacher as an ordinary person. So now, student, say for a little child, a teacher is a special one. Then for them, it is difficult, say, to think his or her teacher as an ordinary person. They thought that teacher is somewhat different from an ordinary person. So now let's read the poem. First, I will read out the poem. Then after that, I will explain it. So listen carefully on my voice. Where do all the teachers go when it's 4 o'clock? Do they live in houses? And do they wash their socks? Do they wear pajamas? And do they watch TV? And do they pick their noses? The same as you and me. Do they live with other people? Have they moms and dads? And were they ever children? And were they ever bad? Did they ever never spell right? Did they ever make mistake? Were they punished in the corner if they pinch the chocolate flakes? Did they ever lose their hymn books? Did they ever leave their greens? Did they scribble on the desktop? Did they wear old dirty jeans? I will follow one back home today. I will find out what they do. Then I will put it in a poem that they can read to you. The poem is written by Peter Dijon. Now I will explain the poem. So let's see first paragraph. Where do all the teachers go when it is 4 o'clock? Do they live in houses and do they wash their socks? Say in this poem, what the poet said in the first stanza is that the child wonders and question where all the teachers go after the school hour when it is 4 o'clock. He wants to know if the teacher, like any other ordinary being, they also live in houses and wash their socks. Say means do they also do all the routine work like other people. Then second stanza, do they wear pajamas and do they wash TV and do they pick their noses? The same as you and me. Say in this stanza, say the son want to know if teachers also wear clothes like pajamas and watch television like them. Say, do they also clean their noses the way other people do and watch their time? Then, third stanza. Do they live with other people? Have their moms and dad? And were they ever children? And were they ever fed? Then say in this third stanza, say further the son wonder by asking if they are also surrounded by people, say if they also have parents and children like us to live with. Did they commit any mistakes or did anything wrong when they were children? Then in the say fourth stanza, say did they ever never spell right? Did they ever make mistakes? Were they punished in the corner if they pinch the chocolate flakes? Say in this fourth stanza, say now, say the son want to know if teachers also made mistake or were ever punished for stealing chocolates or doing any silly or naughty. Then in the fifth stanza, did they ever lose their hymn books? Did they ever leave their greens? Did they scribble on the desktop? All the question answer for this poem will be provided by your teacher who take GMAT class. Thank you for watching my video. Thank you.